I have a last question. It is a weird question, so my goal is to inverse the way I can teach people. So my question is how to become a loser, okay? And the goal is to make to build a video with the best keys to become a loser with each expert. It's a funny video, okay? To touch people differently in what they don't have to do, okay? So do you understand what I mean?
That's my next book.
It's funny.
That's my next book.
Okay, so it's perfect. So,
Why? Tell me why you think that will work. Why do you think that will be so successful? Because I know why. Why do you think that'll be so successful?
I am sure it will. When I had the idea in my home, I have had the eyes very open, and I'm sure it is a great idea.
I know it's a great idea.
And why? Because in saying what they don't have to do, they will listen more because it's them. I am describing what they do, but I'm not saying what they don't have to do. I have some difficulties to explain what
But I know what you're talking about. There's an invisible dynamic that works with everybody who retains me to work with them. And the invisible dynamic is called short-term discomfort versus long-term regret.
Yes, I love this principle.
Right. I may not want to deal with you now, but what I really, really don't want is to be in 2018 looking backwards saying, boy, I wish I dealt with him then. And that's the objective that you have when you get up and talk to your groups of people. We may not want to hire him now, but we don't want to wish we did. And there are ways to create that in conversations with people when you talk to them. It's the foundation of every sales pitch. So the reason I think that have you heard the 30-second elevator speech? Have you ever heard that 30-second elevator speech that people in this country practice describing their business in 30 seconds?
Yes, I know what is an elevator speech.
Okay, good. Everybody's talking about 30 seconds. You don't have 30 seconds. You only have 6 seconds. Because in 6 seconds, the person you're talking to, their mind glazes over. Just glazes over and they're gone. So how quickly can you get your message across? You have to get your message across in 6 seconds. And when somebody says to me, what do I do, depending on who I'm talking to, certainly not you because we're in the same field here, but I would say to somebody, I go out in the elevator here on the 22nd floor. So I'll get in the elevator and I'll say to somebody, hi, how you doing today? What do you do? The guy will tell me what he does. Then he said, what do you do? And I said, it's funny, I sell mistakes. You tell somebody you sell mistakes, nobody will ever walk away from you. They went, what do you mean you sell mistakes? I said, well,
The fact you said me don't read this book, it increases the wants.
It increases the desire to read it.
The desire to read it, it's funny.
Right. Well, but the reality, and that could be a sales pitch by somebody, but that's not with me with this. I'm very serious.
Okay.
You're going to trust me that you just go down a table of contents, and what you want to deal with will leap right off that page. What you have to deal with tomorrow, or maybe even the next interview, bang, there you are. It's right there.
Mm.
So, I only do what works. I don't have the time to play around. I've done all my experimenting with everything. I know, and I know this stuff works. And I know the people. I just left a meeting right across the street with 25 business people. And we meet every 2 weeks to help refer people to somebody else and connect people up to other people. It's a whole business networking concept. I don't know whether they have that in France, but it is an amazing thing to develop a business doing that, But I have probably 8 people out of the 22 who have been my clients, and currently all my clients, and the people around the table will never thank me for me helping them, because they deal with some very sensitive things within their company and with other people they're dealing with, and they don't want to give that away. And since most of the people in the room know what I do, they don't want to make the connection between me and them, and that's okay. If you look at my card, there's a confidential sounding board on the card. That's a covert practice for people who are at the very top of their game. And I got people in Australia, a couple of people in Kuala Lumpur, one guy in Paris, another guy in Canada. He's in a very difficult thing running his company. And people at the top of their game want somebody at their back to help them when something comes in. Because when you're at the very top, you don't have anybody you can trust to talk to. Nobody. Who do you talk to? If you talk to your vice president or your CFO, he may be after your job. I have a woman who's a client of mine who's in Washington. Very high position. She'll only talk to me. She won't talk to anybody else. Because you have to be careful who you talk to.
Yes.
You have to be careful. You have to be careful who you talk to. And so I have a speed dial system where, somebody will call up. First of all, I'm not a therapist. I don't do psychotherapy. I say to people, put me on speed dial. And when something comes into your mind that's going on, pick the phone up and call me. I want to hear you say, this is going to happen, what should we do? Rather than, I just did this, was it okay? Because I don't want people to make mistakes. It costs too much money. Oh, it does. I have a whole system to change the culture of a company from a management culture to a coaching culture. Cool stuff. Did it 10 years ago with Hewlett-Packard, certain people with Hewlett-Packard. They're never going to talk about it because they're able to manage so many more people, takes their handcuffs off, all kinds of stuff.
So I would like to know your keys about how to become a loser. And according to you, how to become a loser? What we have to do to become a loser?
Well, here's what I'd like you to do is that...
Your best advice is, it's very important for me to help people to lose.
Well, my best advice is you tell me where you want to be in 2018. Give me the top 10 things that you've seen your client, the top 10 mistakes that you've seen your clients make before they became your client. You don't have to tell me. I'm going to send you my list.
Yes.
But what you want to, and you see, what I would like you to do is I'd like you to write these up, send them to me, and I'll include them in our next book.
Yes, maybe the mistake they did was to not take a decision.
Yeah.
Not take a decision. Wait for the best moment.
Right. Okay. I'll just wait a minute. I'm not going to decide today. I'm going to decide tomorrow. It feels right, but I'm not sure. I'm going to go ask my friend. When I send you the list, you'll see the whole list. I mean, it's a big list. And people love this. They absolutely love it. You go back to your audiences and you ask them to do this. They'll send you all the stuff you want or interview you. Interview them. You want to put it on video. But it's not the mistakes they made, because they won't tell you. It's the mistakes their clients made before they became their client. I have a law firm that I consult with here in the city. And I said to the guy, you need to change from a management culture into a coaching culture. Which means you come to work for me, I say to you, okay, we have this project. Rather than tell you what to do, I say to you, take a look at the project, go home, come in tomorrow and tell me how you're going to handle this. Then I have to shut up and I have to let you explain it to me. That's the first part. The second part, I'll say, okay, what do you need to do? Is there anything you can think of that will get in your way of getting this done when it's supposed to be done? Yes, no, you give me what it is. I have to go to a wedding. I can't do it. I have other appointments. And the third thing is, what do you need from me? What do you need from me? Instead of trying to manage you and coming up and saying, are you doing this, or are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? I just say, you need anything from me today? I went to a law firm. I don't know, have you dealt with many lawyers in France? You know, in your audiences, lawyers, they if you're not a lawyer, they don't want to listen to you. So my client, who's paying me,
Yes.
I said to him, "You want it?" No, he says, "You've never run a law firm." So he called me up about a year after I stopped working with them. He said, "I have good news and bad news for you." I said, "What's the bad news first? Give me the bad news first." He says, "The bad news is you're not going to get a percentage of what just happened because I'm paying you." I said, "Okay." So what's the good news? He said, "I just saved $20 million in 20 minutes. I said, "How'd you do that?" He said, "I had a lawyer, a young woman who was going to try a case in court, and it was a $750,000 judgment. So instead of what I normally do, telling her what to do, I said to her, tell me how you're going to handle this." He said, "I knew in 2 minutes we were going to lose the case." He said, so by taking the time to ask her what she was going to do, I discovered that we were going to lose. Had I done it the normal way, tell her what to do, she would have done what she was going to do anyway, and we would have lost the case. Plus, we would have lost the client, who was a major client of ours. It boggles my mind how people don't prepare to compete. I'll use a couple of names. I'll give you a couple of names. In American football, the New York Jets played the Baltimore Colts in the third Super Bowl. That was, you heard Joe Namath? Have you heard the name Joe Namath?
No.
Okay, Joe Namath was a very popular, very successful quarterback, and he made a prediction that they were going to win when they were severe underdogs, and they won the game. Well, in American football, there's a line, and there's one guy that protects people protects the defense from coming in to tackle a quarterback. One of the defensemen was a guy by the name of Dave Herman. He was 6'2", 250. Have you ever heard the name Bubba Smith? No. Bubba Smith was an actor. He was a football player, but he was 6'7", 360 pounds. Really huge guy. And I said to Dave Herman, "How did you protect Joe Namath from this guy coming to tackle him?" He said, "I watched game films." I said, "What did you watch for?" He said, "I figured when a guy that big has got to move forward, he's got to be standing on 1 foot just a little bit longer than everybody else." He said, "So I never watched the place. I just waited till the foot came off. Because the minute that foot came off the ground, I knew this huge man was standing on only 1 foot. And I decided that's when I was going to hit him." Here's a guy that has a whole football game to prepare and win the game. And he prepares that way. You run into people all the time, don't prepare for anything. They just show up. Show up and give a presentation. So my feeling is that whether it's your company going forward or what you're going to do with all of this, it's preparing to compete. I'd much rather have a conversation with you about how you're going to make all of this happen that you want to have happen, rather than meet 2 years from now and sit at dinner and say, "Let's figure out why it didn't work." No, let's find out before why it doesn't work. And it's all, to me, it's the psychology, but it's not the product. What's the mindset of the people? That's where we started. What's the mindset of the people who we're talking to? And how do we make that work? How do we make it work? I just left the meeting with a guy who was telling me, he says, why he can't get through to a contractor. He's a contractor, he wants to get through and talk to an architect. He wants to get the architect's business. He gave me 2 or 3 scenarios, and I said to him, the problem is it's not what you're talking about. I said, he's already got an architect that he doesn't know how to fire. He can't fire the contractor that he has, or he'd hire you. Got to help him to fire the other contractor. Strategy.
So if you change your strategies, you will have more success in every field.
First of all, you have to say, do I have a strategy? What is the strategy? What's the strategy based on? Is a strategy, and this is why you're going to really enjoy this Smart Questions book by Dorothy Leeds. I'm not kidding you. I've referred that book is, I've referred it to everybody I've worked with in Europe and Asia as a business book. But it has you ask questions of yourself, but I'll send you some stuff. I'll send you some questions that I have for people who run companies. But you have to get what's most important to you going forward in your business and what you're doing is the answers that you get from this trip here in the United States. The quality of the answers are directly proportional to the quality of the questions.
Questions, yes.
And
If you ask yourself a bad question, you will have bad answer.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And so many people just focus on their product. Here's the product. Here's what I do. Here's the product. Rather than the overall picture.